If you want to know what it's like watching Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, the experience is a little something like this. It's the opening of an exciting new restaurant chain, and you've patiently been waiting for months to try their highly anticipated medium rare steak, which you've heard will use one-of-a-kind ingredients. You show up to the restaurant and take your seat, and upon ordering the steak, the waiter taking your order pulls out a photo of the steak and spends the next 15 minutes highlighting the juiciness of the meat as your stomach begins to churn in hunger. Once he's done, the waiter heads out, and in walks the chef, who spends the next 20 minutes walking you through all the different ingredients which will be used in the burger and the exact process through which the steak will be cut. You see a waiter approach, and if you think it's your lucky day, think again. Instead of placing a piece of steak on your table, the waiter places a napkin on your shirt before launching into a 20-minute monologue about how the restaurant personally designs their own napkins and engraves them with the design of the owner's family crest. Finally, the steak lands on your table, and as you take your first bite, you realize something. The steak tastes good, but you're nowhere near as excited to eat it as you were when you walked in, and it hardly justifies the hour-long audience you gave the stuff. That is exactly what Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is like. In an interview for the release of Dead Reckoning, director Christopher McQuarrie called fan service and callbacks poison. Quite a strong word. So strong, in fact, that it's time to consider that the real Christopher McQuarrie has been replaced by an evil body snatcher version of himself. Because the first half of this movie is 50% exposition and 50% banal callbacks to the last 7 films, all of which are accompanied by a cheesy 2-second flashback each. Exposition is necessary in storytelling. It's important to answer the question of who, what, and where for the audience, but the trick is to make the exposition feel fun, feel cinematic. In fact, it shouldn't feel like exposition at all, something this movie fails to do, as characters stand opposite one another and explain things with the amusement of that high school PowerPoint presentation you can't wait to see finished because you just want to get your own one out of the way. It's hard not to feel that this exposition comes from a place of insecurity, especially over the underwhelming box office performance of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, which retroactively removed the Part 1 from its name. Not a lot of things scare Tom Cruise. The dude is hung off of aircrafts, climbed buildings, but if there's one thing that does scare Tom Cruise and his mates, it's the idea of a lost, confused audience member. So they spend half of this film catering for that one audience member. It's like Tom Cruise put in his head the image of an audience member who hasn't seen the last Mission Impossible and was like, yup, this is the target audience for this movie. In a red carpet interview, Tom Cruise recapped the last 7 Mission Impossibles by saying they're all impossible, but somehow in the end they become possible. And I sincerely believe that 10-second clip is a better recap than the university lecture we pay to be given here, which beyond just being tedious gets in the way of the emotional payoff we hope to get from a supposed final installment of a decades-long running series. The movie tries to get a few tears out of you before the credits roll, but unless you're a diehard Mission Impossible fan who dreams about Benji and Luther as you go to sleep, you probably won't feel anything. Because the movie is too busy establishing its literal stakes to care all about establishing its emotional stakes. It's like, yes, if the characters don't pull this off, a bomb will go off, but why should I care about the bomb going off? Oh, that's right, it's the end of the world. As painful as it is to endure the first half of the movie, there is a light at the other end of the tunnel. The movie takes flight as we get 2 big set pieces, one involving Tom Cruise underwater in a submarine, and another one with Tom Cruise hanging off a biplane. If you've seen any of the marketing, you know the one I'm talking about. It's literally plastered everywhere. On the surface, neither one sounds like anything new. Cruise was underwater in Rogue Nation, and in both that film and Fallout, he hangs off of some version of an aircraft. But seeing both set pieces unfold on screen, you get an appreciation for just how unique they are from their counterparts, and Tom Cruise's commitment to risking his life for authenticity rank these set pieces amongst the best of the year so far. It's hard to recall the stories in previous Mission Impossible films. I usually distinguish them by the stunts and big missions, and the story here can best be described as serviceable. ChatGPT gone bad makes for a timely if impersonal villain. But if the entity is frustratingly emotionless, then Asa Morales as Gabriel, the human villain, is comically animated, delivering a laughably bad villain performance where the joke is on him and not with him. Mission Impossible has always been an espionage franchise, but above all else, I would argue these movies have always been heist films. Whether it's infiltrating the CIA headquarters in the first movie, or infiltrating the underwater vault in Rogue Nation, these movies are at their best when it's Ethan Hunt putting together a team of people with a range of different skills, all working toward one goal. Some of who he can trust, and some of which he can't, but he kind of has to. You can sense the shift gradually happening since Fallout, but by the time we arrive to Dead Reckoning, these movies have gone from being a heist film series led by Ethan Hunt to essentially being a one-man show. Sure, the fellow members of the IMF press a button here and there, but the movies keep beating you over the head with the idea of Ethan Hunt as the Messiah reincarnate, and his big stunts feel a layer separated from everything his teammates are doing. Whereas the climbing of the Burj Khalifa felt like an organic part of an overall mission in the fourth movie, Cruise's stunts have increasingly started feeling more like meta showcases for the action star, where everything else is built around them. If you know anything about the process of the making of these films, you'd know that's literally how Tom Cruise and director Christopher McQuarrie created these last few. And while any creative process is fine, I shouldn't be able to feel the process in the final movie. In interviews, McQuarrie has often talked about how he doesn't believe in the idea of style as a filmmaker, which has never been more problematic than it is here. When Tom Cruise is doing something as bold as hanging off a biplane, I wish McQuarrie would capture it in a way that feels unique to him as a filmmaker. Instead, it feels like he's shooting this scene in the exact same way that any generic filmmaker would. It's all about getting the information communicated with no thought put into visualizing it in an interesting, engaging way. It's clear that Cruise and McHugh value authenticity. Their goal is always to get wide coverage of the stunts to communicate that, guys, he's really doing this. Lots of long shots, an incredibly stable camera, you know the drill. And while these techniques highlight each stunt in all of its totality, there is a trade-off, which is a feeling of immersion. You never feel like you're on the biplane with Cruise, but every directorial choice made is done with the purpose of putting Cruise's bravery on display instead of immersing you, the audience member, in the danger. It's like, guys, Tom Cruise has been doing this for decades. No one's actually doubting that he's doing these stunts, so for the love of God, please stop trying to convince us of it with every shot. But hey, there's an opportunity for the soundtrack to communicate the danger here. But with composer Lorne Balfe being replaced by Max Arouge and Alfie Godfrey, I didn't expect anything as strong as the score we got for Dead Reckoning, which I still listen to this day. And while I was right about that, I was wrong about just how big of a fall off it would be. The score here is weak, unimaginative, and plays like an inferior version of the themes established in the last films. It all amounts to a movie which sometimes sings but often fails to produce a high note. As an individual film, it's underwhelming. As a finale to an entire series, it's downright baffling. The note on which the movie ends on is one that Cruise and McQuarrie have conceptualized for over a decade. And watching it unfold, it's hard not to ask yourself, that's it? It's a fine note to end on, but it's one that could have ended almost any of the other movies. And I suspect that Cruise and company wanted to keep their options open for another installment, in case this movie drastically overperforms expectations, because nothing about this feels like a grand closing of an iconic action franchise. And for that, I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for weekly movie and TV reviews. And if you've had the chance to watch Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. I'm Cinemike, and I'll see you next time.